Hi you guys, if you're watching this video tutorial, you are ready to stitch together all of those photos that you took in our burst action sequence this week. Hopefully you're ready. We're gonna go into Pixlr right now, so let's get started. All right, you guys, so at this point, you've probably watched a number of tutorials. We've covered a lot this week on how to track a moving subject with our camera and focus on that moving subject. We've also learned how to shoot in continuous burst mode. And you guys have probably gone out and played with this quite a bit. This is a really fun technique to use, and it does a lot of cool things. It's really popular to use burst mode in sports. It's really popular to use it in anything where you're tracking a moving subject, and you want to put a series of subjects in one frame, and that's what we're going to be doing today. You've probably seen burst mode used or a series of stitches used in a lot of different X Game magazines, maybe Thrasher magazine, or maybe a skateboarding magazine, a surfer magazine, anything like that where you have a sequence of a subject stitched together in one frame. It's a really cool effect, and we're going to go over to the computer and use our photo editor today to see if we can do this together. So go ahead and get on your computer with me and see if you can go ahead and follow along with the steps. All right guys, now that we're over in the computer, the first thing we have to do is figure out which images we want from that series of burst shots. Now, if you look at the template of where we turn in our images, you'll notice that there are 5 squares to choose from. You need to have more than 5, but you can use 6, 7, 8. You can use as many shots as you want for your stitch, as long as there's enough space between each image. And what I mean by that is when you're putting all these images together into one, you want to make sure that there's enough space. So you know, you may need to eliminate a couple images to create space between our subject. And don't worry, it'll still look natural. You just need to carefully choose which ones you don't need and which ones you do need. So I'm going to go through that process right now. We're going to go ahead and bring up the images that we had taken outside. You can see here that I have I think there's 7 or 8 images here. Yeah, it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 images, and I'm going to probably eliminate 3 of these. I think I'm going to make a series of 6 for this. So the first thing I want to do is figure out which ones I really need and which ones I don't need. And again, I'm trying to create space between my subjects so the burst looks natural, or the stitch looks natural. So the first thing I do is probably want to eliminate the second one. Most of the time we can eliminate our second image. I like this fourth one, actually. I like the way he has his left foot stepping out, because that would be, you want to do right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. So I'm going to move this one out. I don't necessarily need 2 left feet landing. There we go. We have a left foot, then we have a right foot. Here we go, another step right in front of me. Do I need a second? No, I don't need this. I don't need this one right here where it's right in front of me. I've got a subject directly in front of me. And here we go. He's jumping, and then he's landing, and this will equal a nice series of 6 images in my stitch. I think I'm going to eliminate these 3 below, and this is probably the way you should do it too. Once you have your 5 or 6 images picked out, yeah, we go 1, here we go, and he jumps up, and he walks over. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with this, you guys. I think we're going to take these images and move them into Pixlr now. All right, you guys, now that we've picked out our images, we're ready to move them into our photo editor. And as you know, we use Pixlr editor. Now, this is an Adobe software, so it's a very good learning tool, and it's also free. What I like about it also is it prepares you, again, you've heard me say this before, it really does prepare you for Photoshop and Lightroom and all the other Adobe softwares. Pixlr is actually an Adobe software, so it's set up in a very similar way, and it has a very similar set of tools. So let's go into Pixlr right now. I have editor, and you guys have seen me do this before. I'm going to push on this continue to Pixlr, and I run Flash, and so you want to allow Flash to run here. First thing I'm going to do, you guys, is now that I'm here, I'm going to create a new image. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to create a sort of a blank sheet, a big sheet to put images onto. And I need it to be big enough because, again, your images are going to be around, 2,000 pixels, 2,500 pixels. Sometimes they're 4,000 pixels wide. And so we want to make sure that we have enough space to put our images onto. That'll accommodate that kind of room. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make a width that's pretty big. I actually want to. I'm going to probably make this around, 4,000 pixels. It doesn't really matter if you're perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly accurate. You just need a big enough page. So 4,000 pixels wide. And then height, I'm going to go probably 21. 21 pixels is probably good. 2,100 pixels is good. So 4,000 wide, 2100 high, and again, it doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to kind of ballpark it. And you can see that I have a nice white page in front of me now, and what we're going to do is to start adding on those images and pasting them sort of onto this white sheet. So I'm going to go back to File, and I'm going to open my images. And I have my images here. I keep them in this little hard drive area here. So here are my images. I have them all laid out here. I'm going to start, the best way to do this, you guys, when you're starting out and starting to create sort of your Stitch process, you actually want to find the images that will give you your background. And what I mean by that is you start with the first image and you go to the last image. So I have this first one here. I'm going to open this first one up. And oh, it's sideways. I took my shots vertically. So the way to flip these into vertical is to go to Image, and then we're just going to rotate this 90 degrees. Oh, went the wrong way. Image, we'll rotate it another 90 degrees. In Image, and we'll rotate it another 90 degrees. And there we go. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to more or less copy and paste this image here onto this white sheet. So I'm going to use Edit and Select All. And this, you can see I have some dancing ants around my image. Now I'm going to edit and copy it. And there we go, copy that image. I'm going to select on the white paper behind here, this white page, and I'm going to edit and paste. And you can see it's a little bit bigger than my white page, but you can also see that I'm here in the layers here. I've got my background layer and I've got my layer, my first layer, and that first layer is this picture here. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, you guys. This is a little big, and the way I do this is I make sure that I'm on the layer, the image, this first image here, and I'm just going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go right down here in the middle. This is called Free Transform. This will allow me to make my image a little smaller. I'm going to push down the Shift key, and I'm going to grab a corner, and I'm just going to make it small enough to fit it right there. Actually, it's going to be over here. I think it's on the left side. He moves right to left as he runs through. So now that that's in place, I moved it all the way to the left because that's where he starts. And if he's moving left to right, you just make sure your picture is set up in the right order. I click off the page and I say, yes, I want to apply this change and I want to put this picture here. Now I need to find the last picture in that series of burst images, and I'm going to go back to File and open an image. And I'm going to pick this last one. And there's my last image here. Oh, it's still vertical. I'm going to go back to Edit, Image, and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and there it is. Looking pretty good. I need to go ahead, make this a little bit smaller. The way I sometimes do this is to go to this navigator. I just grab this little dot, pull it down so I can see the whole image. That's pretty good. Okay, now I'm ready. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to Select All. And there I got my dancing ants. I'm going back to Edit, and I'm going to copy this image. And there it is. It says copy right there. Now I'm going to push on that white paper, that white background paper. I'm going to go back to Edit, and I'm going to paste this into place. And I'm going to do the same series of steps. I'm going to go to Edit here and Free Transform. And I'm going to push Shift, and I'm going to grab this little blue corner, and I'm going to pull this into size. And again, I'm ballparking it, but the best way to kind of match these up is to make sure that they're about the same size. So I want to make this about the same size as that first image. And I can actually line up my top and my bottom to make sure that they line up correctly. Again, there we have it. And I'm going to just move this all the way to the end. So now we have our first image and we have our last image. Now I'm going to select the middle image. And this is going to fill the gap. What I'm trying to do is to get this little step area to line up. I'm trying to find these little visual landmarks so I can start to piece these little puzzle pieces together. So here we go. I'm going to go to File, Open Image. Let's go pick our middle image. And it looks like 1, 2, 3. And this is about 3 in. And now there it is. Okay, back to File. Sorry, back to Image. Let's rotate this 90 degrees. Let's make it a little smaller by using our navigator again. Let's go back to Edit and Select All. Dancing ants, we got it. Back to Edit and Copy. Great, it says copy on it. I go back to my page, and this time I'm going to edit and paste. Just like we did with all the other ones, same exact steps. Now we're going to edit again and free transform, push the shift key, grab one of the corners, and pull this into place. And here we go. Now you can start to see that our image is starting to kind of have some similar features in it. So let's take a look. You'll notice that if we look at this step, we've got this step here. It's kind of lined up with this one. We actually want to overlap one over the other. Now if I do this, you can see that I can just take this step, and I want to make sure that, now again, you're going to find that sometimes they don't line up completely at the bottom. The camera doesn't line up. But I can still line up this little curve right here. So it looks like, yeah, right there. It looks great. I just want to make sure that it's a little off, but you have to take the time to make sure that these all sync together. And there we go. See, I've got this little step. I'm looking at this little step area right here where these two are kind of lining up. And they look pretty good. Sometimes you just have to line up all the different areas. So I can see that little blue table is kind of sticking up a little bit. I can grab that little blue table and just pull it into place. I can grab this down here and I can kind of shrink it in a little bit. And you're going to have to do this with your images too. You want all the different features of the image to kind of overlap, but at the same time they line up. And you may have to adjust the size of the images to make sure that they all line up. I'm going to go say yes. Now, whenever you mess with an image, you have to select the layer. The layers control the image. So if I have, all right, layer 1 is going to be image 1, layer 2 is going to be this last image, layer 3 is going to be this middle one. I'm going to go to this layer 2, and I'm just going to slightly see if, I'm going to push this arrow button, and I'm going to move this to see if I can't kind of line these two up. And now, the thing that I'm missing, you guys, is that tree in the middle there. So I may have to add that tree in. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to File, and I'm going to open up the images, and I'm going to see if they're missing one that's got, oh, there's one right here. This one's got the tree in it. I can see the tree is behind my subject here. So I just double click on this, and now I've got that missing image that I need. I'm going to rotate it, navigate, so it's a little smaller. Okay, here we go. So edit, select all, edit, copy. Push on my template here and edit and paste. And we're going to push that one in. Okay, here we go. We're ready now, guys. I'm just going to line these up. Oh, I need this image. So this is what happens sometimes. So the image that I'm in right now is layer 4. And I need this layer to move in front of this other layer because I want to actually move it in front of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to move it to the top. And this will actually allow me to make that the foreground image. I'm going to line up this little line on the step. Now you can see that it kind of bends a little bit. It doesn't actually stay straight. Now this is a common issue. This will happen to you guys too. Now when this happens, I'm going to make sure all these little features line up first. I want to see that there's that rooftop, you guys, and I'm going to then make sure that I line up. It's tough because I have to line up that gutter and I have to line up that rooftop. So that's why this becomes a challenge, you guys, because not everything sort of lines up the way that you want it to. Now here's where it gets complicated. You can see that my step doesn't line up, but I've got my roof to line up. So I'm going to take my little cursor, and again, I'm in free transform, and so I'm going to see how it makes this little swirl. My arrow makes a little corner. This does it at every corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this corner here, and I'm just going to bend it so it kind of matches ever so slightly. Actually, I kind of want to keep it a little more center. Ooh, this is a tough one, guys. This is a tough one here. There we go. Now, don't push shift for this one. You actually need to manipulate the image quite a bit to get it to line up. What I need to do, you can see that this kind of rolls around. It's not exactly accurate. And this back here isn't exactly accurate. You may have to get back. We're going to go back with a clone stamp and see if we can kind of piece these little parts together that don't quite add up. But, you know, this is close. This is not perfect, but it is closer. find out which one it is. Layer 2. Okay, we're on layer 2. Let's go to Edit, Free Transform, and we're just going to rotate it so that the curve lines up. You can see that it's right there. I'm looking for that little stump area. I'm going to shrink this in. Got to shrink it quite a bit to get it to line up, but you'll notice that it will if I. Oh, here we're getting close. We're getting close. I see. I'm looking to make this little planar box line up on all sides. Okay, that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. The roots aren't perfect, but again, I'm going to go back with Clone Stamp and I'm going to make sure that all these link together. So now I push off to the side and I say, yes, I like the way this looks. Let's take a look at all this together. You know, not everything is totally matching up. Not perfect, but man, it's close, right? You know, it's really close. I really want to mess with this last one just a little bit more. This is going to bother me that these steps aren't really linking up. Okay, there we go. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Okay, here we go, guys. So now that we have our background, we have all these kind of set up, the next step to do is I'm not going to add any more full pictures. I'm actually going to use the lasso tool, which is this tool. It's the second one from the top. It's this little lasso. And I'm going to actually lasso my last two subjects and put them into this background here. So for me, in order for me to do that, the next step is to actually what's called merge visible or flatten this image. And this will make this all these layers one picture. So if I'm looking at this, the one I like to use is just say merge visible. If you merge down, you're going to find that you can do it one at a time. You can actually merge these layers. The layer that's closest to the background will become one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge visible because I can see all these are check marked. That means that they're visible. I push this. Now it's all one layer. So now we're ready to go ahead and lasso a couple, our last two subjects and place them into the background here. So I'm going to go to Open Image and there he is. Image and rotate 90 degrees. Now I'm going to cut this guy out, and the way I do this with the lasso tool, pretty simple. I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to push this lasso tool. It says lasso tool, and do not use the one that looks like a circle loop. You actually want to use this polygonal lasso tool. Sort of understand the outline of the subject, so it's a little easier to use. Now Photoshop, if you use a more advanced Photoshop, you can use what's just called a select tool, and it'll actually select a subject out. But we are actually going to have to cut out or draw out our subject. So you can see that this little tail on our lasso is actually the area that makes our pins, or will select the area around our subject. So I'm going to go right to the hand, and I'm going to go to the bottom of that little lasso area, and I'm just going to push a little pen. You can see that if I push down with my mouse, now I have a little place. You can see it just connected to that area. And I'm just going to go a little further and connect all the way around my subject to make sure that I get it. Now, I'm not going to do a fantastic job of this. You'll notice that this does take a little bit of practice, and the chances that you will probably get this wrong a couple times are pretty high, guys. So just remember that this does take a little bit of practice to get it, but if you hang in there, you're going to find that it will work and you will get better and better at it. It just takes a little bit of practice around the head here. Because it's so circular, I'm actually creating a number of little bullets. Here we go. Now you can see that I'm not actually getting right on his clothes. Some of them are on the background, and that's okay because I have this white background. So it doesn't matter too much. Here I am. Now I have a bullet at the top of this. If you guys remember, that's where my starting point was the top of his hand, and now I'm at the bottom of his hand. So I'm going to connect the full outline and click once. And then I might need to click twice. Just like that. So once and then twice. And that's it. You want to actually pause. So you connect it and then you click one more time, and that will make the whole outline. Now that I have my outline, you can see that I've got my little dancing ants around it, you are going to copy. Because what it'll do is it'll copy the inside of this outline. So I go to Edit, and I copy. And there you go. So this is copy. And I'm going to go to my my background again, and I'm going to go to Edit Paste. And this time it'll give me just the figure. It'll give me that area that I've outlined. So again, I'm going to the same steps. I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. I'm going to grab a corner. I'm going to drag it in. Now you'll see that I can go ahead and just place him. He needs to be a little smaller. And I place him right on that step, right where he was, just like that. And it looks like I've got him a little off, but let's just widen him out a little bit so he looks a little bit more proportionate to everybody else. And I push to the side and I say, yes, I want to apply these changes. And there we go. I've got my figure there. That looks pretty darn good, you guys. I got one more to put in. So the last figure is the guy who goes this is where he jumps off. He's going to jump right here where this container is. So again, I'm going to use the lasso tool to go ahead and get my last guy. So File, Open Image. I'm going to select my second to last. This will be his jump off. And again, I'm going to use my lasso tool. I'm already in the lasso tool. It didn't really change tools here. I'm going to go to Image, rotate this so I can see all of him. Oh, I can't see all of him though. So let's go ahead and grab a corner, pull this down so I can see his foot. That's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to start at the hand. I'm going to do this pretty quickly, guys. So you've already seen this. I may actually fast forward this area because you have already seen me do this. You're probably anxious to get started too. So I'm going to try to speed it up. All right, and I'm going to copy it. Go to the background and let's go Edit, Paste. And there we go. You can see I've got a little bit of an outline here, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Edit, Free Transform. Let's go ahead and minimize our subject to make him proportionate. You can see you can flip it any way you want. We are going to make him land right there. A little smaller. Let's go ahead and flatten this again because we have our two subjects that make our layers. So go back to Layer. Let's go ahead and merge visible. Now we can go ahead and see if we can cut some of the stuff out. I'm going to take my crop tool and I'm just going to make sure I can get, looking at the high spots and the low spots. It looks like that's pretty good. Now, for me to do this correctly, I want to make sure that I just take this and I'm just going to go all the way through here to the end. All right, guys, now that I have my image the way I want it, I've used a clone stamp a little bit to kind of seam together those parts that don't really look like they connect very well. I've used the crop tool to kind of isolate the area. I've used all my tools that I have at my disposal to make this look as good as possible. You can see that I have a little bit of outline here. If you would like, you could use the crop tool to get in a little bit snugger, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about that little white area, the white seam area. You can double click here and that looks a little better. All right, you guys, so I really hope you found the tutorial very helpful. Remember to use all the tools that I showed you. I will include a paper copy that has all of the steps in it, and so if you don't follow the video, you can use the paper copy and it will show you where all of those tools are in a different format. Remember to take your time on this one. You're gonna have to set aside about an hour and a half to make sure that you use the lasso tool correctly, the clone stamp, you're cropping in, you're getting the image that you want. So you make sure that you spend the time on it that you need. This isn't something that comes right away and you will have to put some effort into it. To give you an idea, I would probably give my project an 8 out of 10, maybe a 9 out of 10 total. That little area in the middle probably needed more work, and so I would say that I didn't do the greatest job on it. Thanks for hanging in there for this whole video. I know this was a long one, but you will find that these steps will create great projects in the future, so it's really, really cool technique to know how to use. I will see you in next week's challenge, guys. Remember to turn all your projects in by Thursday at 3 o'clock, and I will see you for next week's challenge.